Hormones and metabolism are two buzzwords in the health world that are often talked about but poorly understood, especially amongst women, despite dealing with hormone issues and metabolism issues throughout most of our lives. When you hear the words hormone or metabolism, what comes to mind? Hormones and metabolism are often associated with imbalances or negative connotations, like embarrassment over starting your first period in the 4th grade, white pants and all, 7th grade biology or sex education class, PMS, acne and skin problems, or menopause. Unfortunately, despite hormones and metabolism being a big part of our lives, women are offered very little education or guidance, even from our healthcare professionals, about what we can do to optimize our hormones and metabolism naturally and actually feel good in the process. Until now. Let's chat about boosting your metabolism and hormones during your recovery process. In this lesson, we will discuss what exactly hormones and metabolism are and what they do for your body, why they become imbalanced in the first place, 3 common hormone and metabolism problems in disordered eating, and finally, how to boost your metabolism and hormones naturally. 1. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that tell specific tissues to behave in a certain way. They are like the symphony or orchestra of your body, playing the music to keep your bodily processes in sync, including things like your drive and passions, appetite and metabolism, happiness, satisfaction, motivation, mood, and sex drive. You have more than 50 hormones in your body. Hormones, again, are the chemical messengers that are responsible for stimulating the trillions of cells in your body and your metabolic processes to do their thing. For example, your sex hormones, such as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, influence your behavior, mood, and fertility, while cortisol, your stress hormone, influences your body's fight or flight response, and your thyroid hormones govern your metabolism. So what is metabolism? Your metabolism goes hand in hand with your hormones. Your metabolism is the rate at which your body processes and breaks down the foods you eat and the water you drink and converts them into energy. In other words, your metabolism is how well or poorly your body uses the energy you give it and how efficiently your total bodily processes work, including your hormones. Most people don't necessarily think hormones or gut health when they think metabolism. Instead, they think things like body fat, weight gain, or weight loss, and crazy tactics like grapefruit-only diets or bulletproof coffee. However, your metabolism or metabolic rate is a byproduct of what is happening with your hormones in your gut. The body's basal metabolic rate is controlled by your thyroid hormones. That said, your metabolism, or the speed of your metabolism, is a metric or a marker of what is going on with your hormones. Kind of like blood work is a metric of your iron levels, or your heart rate is a metric of your heart. Why do hormone and metabolism imbalances happen in the first place? In the realm of disordered eating, overtraining, and recovery, there are a lot of hormone and metabolic imbalances. Some women lose weight rapidly, others gain it without trying, others experience a hypermetabolism, needing 3,000 calories per day just to maintain their weight. Others lose their period, and still others have crazy PMS symptoms. No matter what part of the spectrum you fall on, I often find there are 2 primary underlying root causes at play in your hormone and metabolic mayhem, including chronic cortisol hormone imbalances, which we talked about last week, all about stress, and number 2, gut imbalances. Things like SIBO, dysbiosis, gut bacterial infections like parasites, and candida. Again, I cannot stress enough how vital your gut bacteria, as well as your stress hormones or cortisol, are to your full healing process. And unfortunately, they are commonly out of balance and managed, not healed, during disordered eating, treatment, and recovery. Multiple research studies show the direct links between your metabolism, stress hormones, and your gut bacteria. For example, low gut bacteria diversity causes a hypermetabolism. Studies in mice with gut bacteria similar to those with long-term histories of anorexia found that the mice not only had less body fat, but also had to eat 30% more daily calories of chow to maintain normal growth. They were also more constipated and had slower digestion. Another study showed that certain gut bacteria can make you more prone to weight gain, no matter how healthy you eat or how much you work out. When researchers switched the gut bacteria of lean mice and heavier set mice, they found the lean mice became heavier and the heavier mice became leaner. Lastly, one more study showed that binge eating is associated with greater metabolic dysfunction. Even if you eat the same amount of calories as you would normally throughout the day, glucose or blood sugar regulation is significantly altered during those binge eating episodes, quickly spiking blood sugar levels and cortisol, only to crash within hours of the binge, making you feel sleepy or hungry again. If this cycle continues regularly, it further drives your body's cortisol levels up and consequently leads to metabolic and body composition disruption. The bottom line is chronic stress and a disrupted gut microbiome are what lead to metabolic imbalances in your recovery as well as overcoming disordered eating. Let's talk about 3 common hormone and metabolism problems in disordered eating. Number 1, we'll talk about amenorrhea or period loss. Number 2, we'll talk about metabolic inflexibility or getting stuck into a particular way of eating, working out, or body composition. And number 3, we'll talk about altered hunger fullness cues. Number 1, we'll talk about amenorrhea or period loss, also known as hypothalamic amenorrhea because it gets its name from your hypothalamus in your brain, which plays a big part in period loss. Your hypothalamus is a part of your brain that is in charge of many important processes in your body, including regulating your body temperature, energy balance, stress response, and circadian rhythms. Your hypothalamus is the master regulator also of your hormones. The hypothalamus releases the hormones that signal the pituitary gland, which then sends signals further downstream to your other glands, like your ovaries, adrenals, and thyroid, to produce and balance hormones. Essentially, if your hypothalamus is offline, then chances are your period is also offline. How does it get offline? Not to sound like a broken record, but stress or chronic inflammation is the number 1 driver of hypothalamus dysfunction and period loss, specifically through things like low-fat diets, nutrient deficiencies, overtraining, and long-term medication use. One thing to remember is that the hypothalamus is part of a negative feedback loop in regulating other glands. So if your downstream hormones are high, such as cortisol, then they will tell your hypothalamus not to signal to your pituitary to stimulate your sex hormone production, like estrogen, for your period. It's a vicious cycle. A number 2 common imbalance or hormone imbalance seen in disordered eating would be metabolic inflexibility. Metabolic inflexibility is the inability to respond or adapt according to changes in your metabolism or energy demands. This is what happens when you feel like your body is stuck, no matter how healthy you eat, or that you have to eat the same foods day in and day out because it's all your body can tolerate. Sweet potatoes make you feel bloated, spinach gives you IBS, and your food list becomes less and less, not because it's all you want to eat, but it's all it seems your body can tolerate. After years of disordered eating, dieting, binging, or restriction, you've seemingly trained your body to adapt to one way of eating or surviving. And if you get off that track, then your body seems to push back. Another example would be if running every single day, rain or shine, was part of your disorder, your body's metabolic norm has been wired to run. You may then experience that running seems to help keep your bowels regular, your digestion working normally, and your neurotransmitters or brain cells firing healthy. However, if you skip a day of running, You find you feel constipated for days, or you're more bloated after your meals, and you get brain fog, metabolically inflexible. Another example, for those who have struggled with binging and purging, for instance, often find that their body easily elicits a gag reflex when trying to eat more normally again. Or at certain times of day, they feel an urge to binge no matter what they do. Lastly, one more example would be if you've ever been on a low carb or no carb diet and lived on high protein shakes, greens and almonds, and dry chicken breast, you may find that when you try to add in some starch, like sweet potatoes, rice, or squash, your blood sugar seemingly goes nuts. You get brain fog, shortness of breath, or IBS. What gives? Your metabolism has seemingly been trained to run on protein for glucose energy, not knowing what to do with the carbs. Regardless of the stuck metabolic patterns you find yourself in, the reason why your body and metabolism get stuck go back to, you guessed it, stress. Lastly, one more hormone and metabolic imbalance we see in those with histories of dieting is altered hunger cues. Our physiological hunger cues are governed by two primary hormones, leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is a hormone known as the satiety hormone that decreases your appetite. Ghrelin is a hormone that increases appetite, also known as the hunger hormone. In anorexia, ghrelin levels, increased hunger hormones, are generally higher. In bulimia and binge eating, leptin levels, increased satiety, are usually higher. However, in all cases, anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, the brain gets super confused about what it's feeling. Even though it seems like those with anorexia should feel hunger from their ghrelin cues, as the disease progresses, they often don't feel hungry. And even though it seems like those with bulimia or binge eating disorder should feel increased satiety from increased leptin hormones, the disease continues and progresses, and they don't feel satisfied. The brain seemingly trumps the body. You have your gut microbiome and HPA axis and cortisol levels to thank for that. Some people feel falsely full when trying to eat normally, while others feel insatiably hungry. All this happens because internal stress disrupts your ghrelin and leptin hormone production. So how do you boost your hormones and metabolism naturally? All of your weekly body love habits and projects throughout this course are aimed at resetting your hormones and metabolism by first and foremost addressing stress. 3 of my favorite hacks for supporting healthy hormones include: number 1, vary your food and fitness. Variety is the spice of life, especially when it comes to food and fitness. In fact, the more we eat the same things every day, the more metabolically inflexible we become. Number 2, just breathe. I had to bring this up from your first few weeks because breath is just so powerful for de-stressing the body and your HPA axis. Remember, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Lastly, number 3, seed cycling. Seed cycling is a food as medicine approach to supporting your hormones that is beneficial at any stage in your life, especially during times of hormone shifts like PMS, coming off hormonal birth control, or dealing with PCOS symptoms. I'll include a handout in the portal for you on how to integrate seed cycling, and it includes eating certain types of seeds throughout the month in tandem with your period for better hormone balance.